Hello, and welcome to the Troy-area Interfaith Group February program celebrating the World Interfaith Harmony Week. I'm Mehrunisa Ahmed, and I serve as the chair of the leadership committee here at the Troy-area Interfaith Group, and I belong to the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. United Nations has declared first week in February as the World Interfaith Harmony Week, an idea proposed by the King Abdullah II of Jordan. It encourages governments, institutions, and civil society to promote a culture of peace and nonviolence through different programs and initiatives. Today you will hear some leaders of our community doing just that. Let me share with you the Troy-area Interfaith Group mission, which reads, "The Troy-area Interfaith Group exists to invite all faith communities to gather and give for the sake of promoting the common values of love, peace, and justice among all religions locally and globally. We believe that peace among people and nations requires peace amongst the religions. If ever there was a need for connecting with our fellow human beings with love, civility, and harmony, it is now more than ever before. I do not believe that we have faced the conditions we are all witnessing around us before in this lifetime. Since these conditions are out of the box, we as humans have to react in an out-of-the-box way. We must dig deeper in our hearts and go out of our way and reach out with conviction to be able to make a difference. Love for all, hatred for none is the tagline of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the oldest Muslim community here in the United States. In February 2020, the community completed 100 years of its presence in the United States. The community has been at the forefront of interfaith harmony and social justice. To attain harmony, a society must behave in a just manner. People must accept their differences as strength rather than dividers. We must celebrate the disparities as positives and do our part in giving rise to a diverse and inclusive culture. In the current times, it is not just sufficient to change our own approach. It is imperative that we strive to bring a change in the world around us as well. I conclude with a quote from the Holy Quran, chapter 5, verse 9. "O ye who believe, be steadfast in the cause of Allah, bearing witness in equity, and let not a people's enmity incite you to act otherwise than with justice." May God grant us all the strength to make efforts to bring about a positive change in the world around. Amen.
Hello, I am Reverend Chris Hallam, pastor at Northminster Church of Troy, and it is such a joy to be joining you all at the beginning of this Interfaith Week of Harmony. When I was asked to give a message about harmony, the first thing that came to mind wasn't religious teachings, it wasn't scripture or Bible passages, it was actually art terminology. Because I am not only a Presbyterian pastor, but I'm actually a studio-trained artist. And so my mind immediately thought of the concepts of art. You can think of things like balance and symmetry versus asymmetry, things like color and rhythm, and all the principles that goes into analyzing and creating art. These are the foundational principles. You learn them in your Art 101 class in college. But what will come up at the end of the Principles of Art lecture is the concept of harmony. It's always at the end because it's one of the most difficult principles of art to define. Because what it entails is not something on its own, but all of the other principles of art working together to make a cohesive piece that makes sense within itself. Behind me is an art piece that I've put together in my house. Some of these pieces are my own work that I have done, and then other pieces are pieces that were done by colleagues of mine. If you think about this as dealing with concepts of harmony and balance, you can see that they don't say the same thing. They're not images of the same thing over and over again. They're not even drawings on the same subject. But the thing is, they have things in common. They have elements that work between each one of them and how they are made and how they are printed and how they are hung. It is these commonalities that give some resonance between each other, but the texture and the beauty of an art wall like this comes out because they are different. It also makes me think about in music, what harmony means in music. The harmony is notably different than the melody. And that's the point of it, is that we want the harmony to go along with, to match, to kind of resonate with the melody, but in no way do you ever want it to be identical, or else it doesn't exist. The harmony is meant to go in tandem, to accentuate the differences, to either bring out the higher highs or sing some lower lows. Harmony is notably about bringing the differences together in a way that matches, a way that is synchronistic, but also highlights the differences. I came to understand this in my own interfaith experience. I entered the interfaith world when I was a student at Albion College. It was both a painful and a joyful time because, unfortunately, I was on the receiving end of some Christian unkind words, to put it gently. I felt like I didn't belong in the community, and the Christian community on campus didn't exactly want me around. And so I went on an odyssey, not willing to abandon my belief in God or my religious need to talk about spirituality. So I went on a search. I started taking classes in the religious studies department, and I joined the interfaith group on campus. We met monthly, and a member from the interfaith group would sit and tell their faith story. What I felt as hearing people from other traditions was pieces of their story that resonated in my soul, that brought out some truth that I knew to be some truth that I felt in my own faith. And it eventually actually brought me back to the Presbyterian tradition that I grew up in. In some ways, it healed me. But I soon learned that my desire wasn't actually to join all of these different faith traditions. I initially wanted to go shopping and jump ship and join something else. But what the interfaith world actually did was find home in my own tradition because of the harmonies between them. I found beauty, not just in the similarities between the traditions, but the differences and how they could expand and teach one another, but also how the differences stood as harmony with one another and created beauty and texture in those differences. I, in the group, coined the term religious crushes because I developed a deep love and appreciation for many traditions that I would never join. I loved their theology, I loved their practices, and I saw ways that they created harmony with my own tradition. Like pieces on an art wall, they didn't say the same thing, and I didn't want them to. Sometimes I feel like there's a fear in interfaith groups that if you join the interfaith group, all the differences will be smoothed over and washed away, as if we are actually trying to create one unifying religion that ignores all the differences. But what I found in interfaith harmony was no, the differences created the texture. The differences was the resonance between them that made a solo become a symphony. The harmony was exactly the differences between us that sang a more beautiful song with us together. So now, as I am working at Northminster Presbyterian Church in Troy, I in no way want my neighbors to believe exactly the same way that we do at Northminster. The members of Northminster don't even believe exactly the same thing. I don't see it as something to be feared, but something to be celebrated. To find the places where there is the synchronism, to find the similarities, but not just celebrate that aspect of it, but as religious communities coming together, actually celebrating the differences as well, knowing that they're not to be feared. Knowing that differences do not make us incompatible partners, but instead cover a wider area, brings out more nuance in the world, can make the different concepts of art work together to create disparate pieces into a whole picture. Friends, we are stronger together for both the ways that we say the same thing by different means, and the ways that we say completely different things that brings out a harmonious difference between us. Thank you all for welcoming both me and Northminster into this song to create harmonies with you all. May we continue to sing together and to sing in different ways to create an ever more beautiful song for the world. May you each in your own life find your own melody that creates harmony with the world around you. Take care and God bless.
Hello, I am Padma Kupa, the state representative for Troy and Clawson, and I am honored to be here to speak to you about my pursuit of peace and world interfaith harmony. This pursuit has brought me to serve the people of the 41st House District as their representative in the Michigan legislature. First, I never really thought of myself as a politician or even interested in politics and making or modifying laws. I actually came to the United States as the daughter of a foreign student and as a young child. My parents studied here, acquired their PhDs, and then we returned as a family to India after 11 years, where all my formative years were spent in this country and in this culture. Then I spent the next several years getting an education in India that would allow me to return to the United States. I came back as a foreign student after completing my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. In fact, I moved to Michigan to work in the auto industry. I never aspired to public office. I moved to Michigan after being wowed by the Chrysler Tech Center in Auburn Hills, and I actually got to work there. But alongside the work to pay the bills, to keep a roof over our head, and to put groceries on the table, and to raise my 2 children, I always wanted to help others. I always sought opportunities to make a difference and help the community thrive. I started helping at our family's local house of worship, adding on volunteering at the PTA at my children's school. I felt compelled to volunteer with the City of Troy's Ethnic Issues Advisory Board that was formed right after 9/11/2000, and I helped found the Troy-area Interfaith Group just a few years later. It was about seeking a place at the table, being heard, being included, and helping to build a strong community. All this civic engagement was local, and my involvement grew, and I joined the Michigan Roundtable for Diversity and Inclusion in order to advocate for engaging our diversity and pursuing justice at a regional level. As my kids had their extracurricular activities, I had mine. I even wrote a column on my interfaith activism, where I sought to promote pluralism and peace. I worked to find balance in my life between competing priorities, finding harmony in my own life as I navigated being a working mom and a wife, navigating the culture that I was born into and that of the country and the community where I made my home. And that is the reason I'm here to speak about world interfaith harmony. Harmony and my passion for pursuing peace. I find that it is most effective to find peace and achieve harmony by seeking justice, fairness, and promoting opportunity locally. We may or may not be able to affect change in so many places around the world, but we are definitely able to help our neighbor, settle a difference with a family member, or seek peace internally within ourselves. When I say most Hindu prayers, I end them with the repetition of the Sanskrit word for peace 3 times. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. It is understood that peace can be created in 3 realms: the Adidaivika, which is of divine origin, Adibhautika, which originates in the physical and material world, and Adhyatmika, which is created within ourselves. So if we want to create world interfaith harmony, we must begin by acting locally. Just as all politics are local, peace begins with us, and harmony in the world starts with harmony in our community. So join the Troy Interfaith Group, not only to watch a video like this or attend a program like this, but to increase the membership and create opportunities for people to get to know their neighbor, to help someone else learn about a neighbor whose faith is different. Maybe volunteer for a local cause. Climate change is the existential threat of our times. Find ways to decrease global warming by reducing your own carbon footprint and helping educate others about it. I leave you with these really important words from the Nobel laureate from India, Rabindranath Tagore. These are relevant for any time and any country. Let my country awake. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. Namaste and thank you.